Have you ever kept a secret from someone you love? Well, if you have, the consequences may be worse than you may think. Tobias Wolff shares this through his short story of Say Yes. This story is about a husband and a wife arguing in their kitchen about whether different race marriages should be a thing. And his wife says absolutely yes, they should be a thing, while the husband says no, they shouldn't, and people should marry the same race as them. And he portrays this in this story about the husband wearing a mask. And through this mask that he's wearing, it kind of covers up the communication and openness between the two, which leads to the conflict of the story. The setting of the story can be defined as the physical and social context in which the action of the story occurs. In this story of Say Yes, the setting occurs in a house. In the house, it allows the reader to understand and maybe relate to what the couple may be going through on maybe they have debated with their significant other in their kitchen. And the setting also helps the author put emphasis on the conflict. Openness and communication are a big part of Tobias's story, Wolff's story of Say Yes. And the importance of openness is not only does it benefit the health of a relationship, but it also benefits the mental health of one another in a relationship, each person. And communication is also very important because a lack of communication could be between family or others that have different views of personal identities. And I think this is a really strong definition for communication that really relates to the story because the man and his wife, they both have different views on different race marriages. And it kind of relates to making up their own personal identities. A connection to the story of openness that is very important is when Wolff portrays, listen, he says, I went to school with blacks, I've worked with blacks, and we've always gotten along just fine. I don't need you coming along and implying that I'm a racist. I didn't imply anything, she said, and we began washing the bowl again, turning it around in her hand as though she were shaping it. I just don't see what's wrong with a white person marrying a black person, that's all. They don't come from the same culture as we do. Listen to them sometime. They even have their own language. That's okay with me. I like hearing them talk. And Wolff portrays this through paragraph 6 through 8. And I think this is really important passage from the story because it shows that even though they've been married for many years, they have been keeping some things secret from one another, and they haven't been completely open to each other about how they feel on their different relationships and how different races can affect a relationship. However, while this relationship is about a man hiding behind a mask, some short story analysis may say the story is about love. And they say this because the love is shown through the story as a man doing chores and dishes around the house, and through affection they show towards the end of the book. While this may be true that they are doing dishes and chores together, the love in the end of the book is not the case. In the end of the book, the wife goes in to take a shower, and she sends the man to bed. Well, when she sends the man to bed, she has no intention of going to bed with him, and she is just frustrated, and she ends up going back downstairs. And the author leaves off kind of a cliffhanger of what ends up happening through the night, but you can tell through inferences of the story and how the story is taken place through the man saying that he's just as nervous as his wedding day, and that he still has the same butterflies that he can't get rid of in his story. And that kind of shows kind of how things are going between their night. Dialogue is a very important part of the short story Say Yes. It puts characters' thoughts into words throughout the story, and it allows the readers to know the feelings of each character. Tobias Wolff allows the reader to be part of the story. So, for instance, in this story, it allows the reader to sit in the kitchen and listen to the argument taking place between the husband and wife, and really makes them feel like an observer of the whole situation. And then I feel like an important scene in this is, so she said, "You wouldn't have married me if I'd been black? For Christ's sake, Anne. Well, that's what you said, didn't you?" "No, I did not. The whole question is ridiculous. If you had been black, we probably wouldn't have met. You would have your friends and I would have mine. The only black girl I ever really knew was my partner in the debate club, and I was already going out with you at the time." And I think this is really important to the relationship because they've never talked about how they feel about different races. But it also, if you dive deeper into the story, he's also keeping things from her and hiding it behind a mask. He's never told her about his partners or his coworkers that he works with or maybe partners with throughout his school from when they were together. And I feel like that's a really big important piece of communication, is telling your partner everything about who you're working with and how they may be affecting your life. So the final question is, does openness and communication always lead to a healthy relationship? And the answer is not always, although most of the time it does lead to a good, healthy relationship. As shown through the short story of Say Yes, the husband was open to his wife after the beginning of the story, which led his wife to going upstairs and giving him the silent treatment for the rest of the night. And we can see through the story that their marriage is starting to really fall apart and can't control anything about it. And no matter how hard you try, sometimes relationships don't work. And we can't control that. Here's my works cited.